Hello, everyone. You're listening to CloudNext, your go-to source for cloud innovation and leaders' insight. Brought to you by Global Dots.
If you're an ISV, your head is spinning when you need to ensure seamless integration and interoperability between various cloud services. If you're a client, you need the flexibility to scale operations quickly without sacrificing performance or security. Both face the common challenge of navigating a rapidly evolving cloud landscape while optimizing resources and maintaining compliance. In walks the savior, cloud partnerships. By collaborating with expert partners, organizations can tackle these pain points, integrating solutions, enhancing security, and optimizing resources. I'm Ganesh Diorsum, and joining me today is Itai Ben Dror, VP of Corporate Development at Cast AI. He's here to talk about the critical role of cloud partnerships in addressing these challenges and driving success in the cloud industry. Itai, before we start, what should people know about you?
Hello, Ganesh. So first of all, happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And always happy to spend some time with you and chat tech. I think that the most interesting piece is that I'm not a techie. I've been working in this industry for about 10 years or so. Out of those, about 7 in partnerships. And I'm not coming from tech background, but I keep getting drawn to this intersection between technology and innovation on one side and sales. So it has to be something that results with a clear result. And on the other hand, the longer play, the business development, the partnership side, because I find it very interesting to build these relationships. And this is how I came from basically learning politics, diplomacy, political science to selling DevOps solutions and technology. So this is kind of my background. Apart from that, focus a lot of my time on family and my kids, my wife. So that's pretty cool that I'm able to balance a fast-moving tech career with some family life.
That's great. And you know what? The amount of politics that is in partnerships, it's almost seems perverse, but that does seem to give you a very good background for those kinds of roles. We mentioned before about cloud partnerships and how they're growing. Could you give us an overview of how cloud industry has evolved in recent years and what changes have created to need dedicated partnership management roles?
Sure. So I think that as technology evolves, it's not getting less complicated, right? There is more specification. There are more complexity and more specific areas where each party in the game has to be very, very, very strong at. So cloud, for example, opens the world for innovation, for doing stuff that were simply impossible years ago. You can just go into AWS and spin up an instance and build your app from wherever you want in the world. It's amazing. But then again, once you start growing, you need to know security, you need to know cost, you need to know hundreds of different abilities within the cloud. And I think that customers today understand that they need to focus on building their own solution, focus on their own customers. The cloud providers, which are these big sun spheres we all evolve around, they are not able to give that endpoint solution for each customer with their specific needs. And here come partnerships, right? That is us. It's the ISV, the independent software vendor, like Cast, like many other companies in the world that help with a specific space where we are excellent at. And companies like Global Dots, like you guys that are there to provide the best possible stack of solutions plus services, consulting into those companies, into those companies evolving in the cloud. And I think that this understanding that cloud and technology is getting more and more complicated, and companies need to focus in their own competitive landscape opens the door for building partnerships that serve customers in the best possible way.
Yeah, I totally hear you on that. And we're obviously, we're in this game for quite a long time, the pair of us, and we know each other from definitely sort of different lives where we see these tech companies grow from startups into enormous giants that get bought by the likes of Intel and NetApp and these kind of things. And those journeys are incredibly tricky. It's interesting that I see a repeat as well of old habits repeating themselves in the new tech world. And that's There was a famous story years ago about Ford Motor Cars, and they used to do all of their accounting in-house. And they were one of the first people to outsource all of their accounting. They were like, we're not an accounting company, basically. So why are we doing accounting? And they outsourced their whole accounting department to someone else. And that was seen as sort of like very cavalier or crazy at the time. But actually they were like, it's not our core business. Our core business is doing something else. So we should focus on that. And I see that echoing in tech now. There's so many, but AWS you mentioned, I don't think anybody can know AWS now. I think it's too big, basically.
Oh, it's crazy. We so at CastAI we automate Kubernetes infrastructure and save customers over 50% of their cost, right? And a lot of DevOps people, they like doing these things on their own. The entire open source world, and it's great. Every time someone tells me, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this all on my own. I have this open source tool, and I've developed that and this script," and that's great. And I think there's always room for people to be proficient at what they do and doing a great job there. And there will always be room for these ISVs or subject matter expert startups or consultancies to take you from where you are all the way up to being 100% great. Right. And then again, leaving a lot of time for you to be proficient at your core job and do better at the core of what you're doing. So yeah, it's always going to be a struggle between these two things, right? On companies trying to do more and more and more, but then needing to focus on what they actually need to deliver.
There's a certain kind of, I respect that person quite a lot who builds things by themselves and they do everything and they want to own.
I know you do.
And all these people, all power to them. But it's I used to hold a previous job where we did a lot of that in-house to save money, including things like creating CDNs before CDNs existed. So we had this legacy thing that was basically a CDN that we built in-house, something that was essentially a bit like Kafka before Kafka existed. So you had all these things, and eventually, a group of us had to come together and say, we need to stop building things. We're not good software builders. We can see that because of all the problems. We need to be taking more things off the shelf, which is it's a bitter pill for some techies to swallow, but I think we're at the point now. But yeah, it's.
I think it's also a cultural thing. I'm privileged to work on like a global environment. I start my day with Korea and Japan and end it with San Francisco, and you can see how the state of mind of techies and of companies is different between different places. I'm in Israel. A lot of people here like to do on their own, and just build. And then again, if you come with a technology solution that's really innovative or does something better than they could build on their own, you get a lot of respect for getting that right answer. Then again, in the US, a lot of times you get companies just saying, hey, this part I'm outsourcing to someone else, and that's just the state of mind, and that's fine, right? So I think that's also very interesting in how people view the core of what they're doing, if they want to try and build everything on their own or like make or buy, right?
Yeah, make or buy. Definitely, it's a linchpin. I also it's a very interesting, and we'll fall off the rails if we talk about it too much. But the cultural differences you mentioned there between somewhere like Israel or America or mainland Europe, the risk averse or the willing to take a risk in Israel on an innovative solution, it seems to be so much higher than mainland Europe. And I do a lot of work in Germany, and I can tell you they are almost the polar opposite, the most risk averse people. So it's very interesting if you're a tech partner trying to introduce innovations around there and the different feedback you get from different countries. But going back to partnerships, there are different kinds of cloud partnerships, such as both with clients, resellers, and cloud providers. What unique challenges do each of these different types present?
I think that you need to look at it from the eye of the partner. So if I'm an ISV, I want to look at each partner and see what's their driver, what makes them tick when they wake up in the morning. And obviously a challenge of partnering with a 10 people consultancy or a 2,000 people consultancy or AWS is a whole different challenge, and you need to go at it from a different view. So from where I'm sitting, I think the most important thing is actually what drives the other party, right? Because if I don't understand that, if I don't understand what's the person who's spending 30 minutes an hour with me from the partner's side, why are they doing it? What makes them successful? Then I won't be successful. And I think that the different partnerships, they vary by that, basically. You need to understand what the other party wants. So AWS, they're huge. Microsoft, big and also have their own complexities, right? With a traditional Microsoft business. So each party has their own story, and each person within that partner has their own story. And I think that's a key difference that needs to be identified. And maybe doubling down on that, where the collaboration or the event circles kind of meet for the ISV and for the cloud provider and for the service partners, where they can find the points where the motivations align. So that is also very interesting. Although the sizes are different, the revenue is different, the drivers of business are different. If we can find those cross sections, that's where everyone wins. It's
definitely an interesting tightrope to walk, and I know particularly in your role, and you've done this with a number of companies now, and you're familiar with it. Having to wear the different hats is definitely quite interesting. You know, the hat you wear when you talk to the giant that is AWS is a totally different hat that you wear when you talk to a very small partner who wants to help push you in some small region, Thailand or Vietnam or something.
I actually had a role in a few companies back where we were a pretty big startup. So I was working with these giants, these telcos, and I was the small, just asking for, hey, some attention, let's work, let's find a deal. And then I was also mentioning like a lot of smaller partners that were using my data, and they were like looking up to us. Hey, can you help us with some? So it was really funny to be in the situation where one moment you're the giant and the other you're looking up to the giants, and gives you the perspective of partnerships. And
yeah, it's a tricky world to walk. And you can our VP of sales has a mantra that's ABN, always be nice. And I think on that, in those journeys, always being nice to everybody, because you never know who you're going to see in a different world later on. Who's somebody who seems like you haven't got enough time for them, or they're not worthy of your attention. And then the next thing you know, they have a multi-billion-dollar unicorn that you're begging for bread from their table. It's like, knowing where to spend your time effectively is quite tricky. And in that world where everybody knows you need to spend most of the time pleasing the big guys, how do you manage, or how would you give advice about managing time, keeping in mind that some of these smaller fish could turn into very large whales?
First of all, I don't like saying no. It's probably a mistake, but I think that, first of all, I think this partnership, specifically the space where going deep is way more important than going wide. And there's always a balance in our space. You go to the big events, there's so many partners, so much opportunity. You want to speak to everyone. And as I said, I don't like saying no. I like to be nice and to chat with everyone, build these relationships. Then again, you have to focus. And I think that's so important to understand where you spend your time. And it's about balances. It's about not shutting down opportunities and keeping keeping nice. But then again, you have to focus. You have to understand where you spend your time and money. We're in the business of growth. So I think I really relate to what you said earlier about building these long-term relationships. We've been working together for a few cycles now. I got introduced to my current role through a partner that said, hey, meet this company. They're great. So I think these things are really, really important. Then again, we're in the business of growth and revenue, and this comes in with focus. You can't just spread yourself thin and talk to 1,000 different people that won't move. So I think that's an interesting balance. And I ask myself every day, am I focusing on the right thing?
I think that is a super top tip. And I'm also totally guilty of saying yes to way too many things and being super nice to many things. And I think also somewhere in the mix of there is hitting lucky. I don't talk about it very often, but when we have to analyze a lot of tech and see if we want to be partners of these solutions. And sometimes things land and they're just immediately obvious, like, okay, this is amazing. We want to partner with this straight away. But it always kills me that you use that focus, like you said, and we in the cloud security world, we already had quite a few vendors in there when Wiz landed on my desk, and they gave me a presentation. And at the time, I was a bit exhausted from looking at these CNAP tools, and it really didn't seem to be any much different, to be honest. It had like a slightly slick UI, but basically it didn't seem to be any more special than the other ones. So listen, guys, we have too many in the portfolio already. Very nice. Let's keep in contact in the background. Anyway, obviously now Wiz is like the super mega unicorn, and we could have partnered very early on. And it sort of haunts me that these things. But yeah, you have to pick focus, and I think you have to have a little bit of luck as well.
Yeah, I hope you were nice to them though, and now you're
listen,
keeping a good relationship.
Always be nice, but there's only so much time you can provide. But yeah, always be nice.
Yeah, totally.
In our prep talk, you talked about the power of three, and that's ISVs, and that's independent software vendors, resellers, and cloud providers. Can you give us a bit more information on how this triad works and the benefits it brings to clients?
For sure. So today, every company is a software company, and most of them are moving up to the cloud, right? The cloud providers, this is their holy grail, to bring up customers and help them grow in the cloud. Yet again, that is very complicated. And a lot of customers, especially the traditional ones, like hiring the top talent that knows cloud and knows how to scale, how to evolve into Kubernetes, into top-notch security. These are things that customers don't know on their own. And now they'd go to, or AWS would go, or Microsoft, Google would come in and say, hey guys, migrate over. It's great. You'll innovate. You'll grow faster. It's cheaper. And they find it hard to serve these customers and give them all the attention and love and actually and knowledge that they need to make this journey. This is where the first partner comes in, which is the service provider, and being called in to help these customers and give them the right tips. Then again, the service provider can only go so far. So a lot of service providers that I know have built this model where it's not only services, it's we add on top the top ISV solutions, the top SaaS technologies that you can add on top of the service to make this journey even faster. I actually saw a research by AWS. They said that for every $1 of AWS consumption, a good service partner makes 6. That's insane. Like for every $1 of AWS, a service provider can make 6. How do they make 6? Of course, they sell services, consulting, but also ISV solutions like us, right? So a customer they're growing like crazy in the cloud. And I'll tell you a known secret. When you join the cloud, it's actually going to be way more expensive than the Excel that you had before. It's going to cost you more. You're going to spin up more VMs. You don't know what they're doing. And you're going to get a consultancy that's going to help you move things around, maybe re-architect stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to solve this problem with automation, which is where we come in. And Cast AI automates this. So it's a win-win-win, right? Customer is able to adopt cloud faster, is able to make sure they spend the money they want into the projects they want. The service partner makes money from working with us, makes money from working with the customer, and the cloud provider gets a customer that's happy, optimized, automated, and is able to spend time in innovating and growing more their services. So I think this is the kind of the three-way solution that is really important to wrap around the customer and give them this holistic solution.
Makes perfect sense. And as a reseller and an integrator, actually, it's amazing. Most of the time is trying to, for getting new customers, is trying to convince them that we've done a lot of hard work for them, and that it's a benefit to work with us because, listen, I don't want to sell you one thing. I want to sell you 5 things. So it's important that you're happy with everything that we give you. So rest assured, everything we give you is going to be the best of breed. And it's a very interesting, like, political, social experiment in trust, where certain clients will trust you and they'll just go, okay, and they'll take everything from you. And they even get to the point where they'll ask us for things we don't even sell. They'll say, listen, we don't want to buy it from someone else. We trust you. Give us a price. We're acting sorry. We don't actually sell that, but okay, we'll try and get you a price. And then the flip side of that is the people who, that you can tell they just don't understand why a partner is in the middle. Like, why are you there? What's going on? And the battle is very interesting. Is a battle in people. You can see you're battling with people's minds, and to convince them that also, like when you partner with somebody, and let's use we're Global Dots and Cast AI, so let's use this as an example, is that the benefit of us to you is the reach and getting people in the room, and we can also demo that software. We also know, we have engineers that can help you and walk you along the way. And it's very interesting because it's psychological. It's not even business, because people know that partners and resellers exist. The ecosystem is not snake oil. It's very large ecosystem, and for bigger companies, it also makes perfect sense. Like the Akamais and the Cloudflares and the mega scalers of the world. Nobody questions for a second that they have a partner network. It's obvious like that. So it's a funny mindset where, you have this. It's psychological. It seems.
I think that what you mentioned about trust. I think it's the number one thing that people don't get about partnerships. So I had in one of my previous companies a CEO that just said, partnerships. Okay, tell each partner to bring $1 million, please, every queue. Here's your target, and let's please start selling. No, it's not about putting a target of $1 million. It's about building. It's about trust, relationships, and it will come from there, right? By the way, for you with the customer, for us to get this is why it's a partnership and not just a transactional thing. It's deeper. So
yeah, they're strange old things, partnerships, and it's amazing that trying to steer the ship of a company that says they want to be a partner first company, and having lots of employees inside that company that don't agree with that is definitely bumpy. And as we don't need to get into like war stories or stuff like that, but I can tell you Global Dots has and sort of many of my colleagues have a long history of removing knives from our back and then having to start again. And I think I've recently been told by Cloudflare that they're becoming a partner first company, which is completely new information. They've never said that in the past, and they've been, pretty awful, to be honest, to partners. But they put in a role which is a CPO, which is a chief partner officer. Nice. So, they really mean it when they put someone as a on the C level. And he came on stage at this partner summit, and he literally, the first words out of his mouth was like, listen, guys, he's an American guy. Guys, we know that we sucked with partners. And then he just had me, basically. I was like, okay, great. Like, if you'd have come on and done some like whitewash of like how you're becoming better, I wouldn't have believed him. But he was just like, listen, we sucked, and we're going to have a proper go. But yeah, sorry.
I have a good story about that as well. In my current company. So it's part of the due diligence I do in every company I go, is to check how they treat partners, to make sure the state of mind is right, and that partnerships are a key part of the strategy and of the sales motion. So in my current company, we had a new CRO that joined literally in his second week in the company. We had a sales kickoff in Miami. Everyone come in from all around the world. I do my partnership presentation explaining what we do. And then he stands up in the middle and says to the entire sales team, most of the company is there. And he's saying, guys, every deal should theoretically go through a partner. We're comp neutral. There is absolutely no reason for you not to work with the partner on every single deal you're working on. This is me calling you as the CRO to work on everything. You get paid the same. You grow the same. We want you to work with partners. And I was like, that's it. I'm sold, which is amazing for us. I like to mention that to partners as well, because it's a state of mind, right? You have organizations saying, no, I'll loop in a partner where it's right. I'll see. But we are really, really focused on that. And I think it's really a state of mind of founders and of leaders to understand this value that a partnership brings. And that the extended velocity, more reach, just knowledge in the market, right? You're speaking to so many customers. Some of them might not buy, but just having these partners knowing that we're there and want to work with them, that's great for us.
Yeah, and it totally has to come from the top, like always. And you 100% have to remove any financial gain by not putting it through a partner for the system to work. People who, or companies that don't do that don't, rig their sales force so it literally won't let you push the deal through unless there's a partner attached. You're going to get rogue salespeople. It doesn't matter the size of the company. If it's 20 people or 1,000 people, you'll always get rogue salespeople. So it's when you put in the chief revenue officer that says that, and you put in a chief partner officer that says that, that's when you know that you have, you really mean what you say, and you can be held accountable to that. And that builds a lot of trust. That builds unbelievable trust with people, with resellers in the network and with partners in the network. And, that's, at the end of it, trust seems to be like the huge keyword part of this podcast, it would seem. You seem to like threes, which puts you in good company. I don't know if you know this, but Elon Musk puts things in threes in his factory for no other reason than that he likes things in threes, and the sort of the mystical power of the three, which, I kind of also like as well. But you mentioned a 3-part methodology on trust, revenue, and client value. Can you walk us through this?
Yeah, sure. So I think that's part of understanding partnerships, and we already spoke about the trust part, the relationship part, and a partnership will not work if you don't have trust and a good relationship, right? You might sell a deal, but eventually it's the longer play, it's the deeper relationship piece for it to be a true partnership and not just something transactional. So that's the first piece, and it's most important for me. And it also goes on, like, it's more than a, hey, I'm, this is the deal I'm on right now. It's something that goes on further. By the way, it's also your trust as a service provider, as a consultancy with your customers, right? If you sell a solution that doesn't work, then you've lost trust. You're a trusted advisor, right? You lost trust with your customer. They will not buy something else from you. So I think that this is the second piece that's really, really important. It has to be right for the customers. It has to bring value and work. Like if I go and work for some solution that technology is not really there, it doesn't really work, we might be good friends for a lot of time, but it won't be a partnership because it won't work. So it can't be just one. And it can't be just two, it has to be three. And the third one for me is that it has to be a win-win for both partners. It has to fit both business models and make sense business-wise, because otherwise we both won't do it, right? If we don't win together, it's not a true partnership. And I think that if the three of these don't check out, then it won't scale. It won't grow, from my experience. So I'm constantly looking at partnerships from that standpoint. By the way, you can fix any of those. Right, you can see where the business model doesn't really align with what that partner does right now, and let's have an honest conversation and build a solution that works for your business model that helps you grow the way you want to grow. We can work on our relationship in different ways, can invest more into each other. But I think that having these triplets is really, really important, and I'm happy to be in the same list with Elon Musk on anything. So.
Yeah, I hear you, and it's interesting actually, because that client value, and we're a lot of this we're talking around partnerships, but that client value sometimes is only reached because you have a partner in there. I mean, I can list numerous companies that we work with where they do not have the professional services in order to make it work. Like, a company will buy a bot, a web application firewall solution with a bot protection in there, and it's not working for them. It's not because the product doesn't work. They can't tune it, but the vendor themselves, they don't have the professional services to throw at it. So you have to lean into these partner networks. And I think, it's when the partner, when the software vendor understands that, and the client understands that as well, really that trust and revenue and the value really come together, because there's literally, this is stating the absolute bleeding obvious, but if they buy something and then it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, you've lost all three, because they've lost trust in you. Then you've lost the revenue because they're never going to buy it, and then there is no value. So it's very interesting.
Then again, if they trust you enough, they'll give you a chance to fix it, which is also important.
Yeah. Well, I think I may have told this story before. I don't know if I have told this story before, but my path to Global Dots was as a customer originally, and nice. They were helping us migrate from one CDN to the other. We had no idea about CDN at the time. We needed help with that. And at some point along the journey, there was a piece of technology that was put in, and it wasn't what it was supposed to be, basically. And one way or another, it just didn't work and didn't do the job. And there was a legendary sales guy called Michael Steinel, and they flew over from Germany to come and see us in the UK, and we sat down in his office. And he said, okay. And then I gave my monologue of 5 minutes about what had happened and this and that and blah, 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 and why we weren't very happy. And I wasn't mean about it. I was just like, listen, this is where we're at. And after my monologue, there was a pause. And this guy looked at me and said, well, it looks like we can't polish this turd. and again, I was just like, thank you. I was like, just thank you for being honest and not trying to just, baffle me with whatever. And that built the trust that we did move on and we managed to sort the problem out. But yeah, I feel like there's like a key moment where you can win trust and lose trust. It's like it's a tightrope walk at that point.
Yeah, nothing like some honesty and transparency to buy it back.
I think it just goes further, doesn't it? There's a time for waffle. I introduced people in someone in Israel to the word waffle, which it's a UK slang word that means using lots of unnecessary words in order to talk around a subject without saying what you mean. And business waffle is awful, basically. So yeah, here's to more transparency. So we've talked a lot about the benefits of cloud partnerships, but we know there are some risks and what happens if it fails. I've got some war stories. I bet you've got some war stories, probably better than mine. What can you share with us?
No, it always works. One of my mentors in this field says that partnerships is all about conflict resolution. This is the job. You have the business development and everything we spoke about, but eventually it's about conflict resolution, which I like. It's one of the questions I asked when I interview people is give me some conflict, some juicy stuff and how you resolve it. They are, when we're in sales, it tends to be an aggressive business, right? Where people really want to close their deal, want to get to the end of queue, want to get that PO coming in. And when you introduce a third party, you work with a partner. There's another party in the game, and not always they're incentivized exactly like you. Maybe the queues are not aligned. Maybe they are, there's something else. I have some nice stories, but I've had a partner send me an email saying, listen, give me 5 more points or the deal goes to a competitor. I've had all sorts of stories. And I think that the most important thing is to pay attention to the fact that it's a long-term game. And it's not about here and now, right? It's about, let's figure this out. Let's work our way around it and build something that lasts for longer. Yeah. And I think that it pays out in the long run. Even that 5 points deal, we were able to work it out and figure out a way that everyone's happy and win the deal together and keep going. We are in the business of closing business and of winning together and growing. So it can be aggressive, but remember the long-term play. So that's the way I try to work around these things, finding the way that everyone might be happy. Maybe you're less happy in this one. It can happen, but let's look at the long-term play because it's not a one-off, right? If it's one-off, it's not interesting.
Yeah. And I believe that probably I've been, and this one doesn't have to go in the episode, Tom. I believe I've been on the end of one of those emails in the past, exactly one of those. And there's maybe it can go in actually, because I've had that happen in the past, and actually there was a difference between putting that in an email and having a Zoom call and saying the exact same thing, because the message is lost in translation. And this is probably this is actually a wise piece of advice. I as someone who didn't like jumping on endless Zoom calls just to say a few words when you can just say it quite easily with an email, there's a very important sales lesson to learn, that if it's a sensitive subject around price, always get in the Zoom room, because the words you type in an email, you can say them through it, and they can be highly offensive and really triggering, and can't believe this guy is punishing us and saying XYZ, really putting us in a tight spot. And then you say the same thing in a Zoom call with emotion and explain that actually you're not putting them in a corner. It's like we're all in a corner, because otherwise the deal has to go another way, and understanding that you're reaching out to try and reach a resolution together, not to bang someone over the head. And it's quite astonishing, the difference of a format of delivering that message. But yeah, maybe there's you need like a cheat sheet of what to deliver by email and what to deliver by a Zoom. But
yeah, it's like we said, relationships you build in person, ideally, if not like phone calls or something. But that's what I like, that eventually you speak to someone and resolve whatever.
So we have it's actually not what I like to call. It's one of our old guests called it the DeLorean question. And if you could go back in time before you started this role, what 3 pieces of advice would you give to your past self?
So, I think we spoke about a lot of these points already. The most important point for me is just to enjoy the ride. And it's a hell of a ride. I'm enjoying myself for sure. But it's something to remember, especially in sales, as you ride these rocket ships. And it's connected to the other point, which is the long-term play in partnerships, and remembering that there sometimes is a lot of pressure, right? You want to close the deal. There's something really important, but then if you look at the grand scheme of things of growing your career, growing your current company, you wanna build these relationships to last. And even if there is a conflict now, just remember it's a long-term thing. And lastly, as we spoke about the better together story, which is understanding that it has to fit to the partner. But I keep learning it every day, again and again, right? You putting yourself in the shoes of the other person you're working with, of your partner, is so hard. It's really something that is underappreciated. So understanding the person you're speaking with, what they're going through, what they really care about, what they think about when they wake up in the morning, as a partner professional, I think it's the first thing you need to come up with. By the way, anything in sales, it's the first thing you need to remember when you're speaking with your counterpart, because it will help you build a better relationship and generate the results that you need. So having that empathy of understanding the person on the other side, and it doesn't change the fact that you can demand results, or put in targets, or being very focused on all of those things, but have the empathy of understanding who you're speaking with and what are their challenges will take you a long way. So trying to remember that.
Yeah, it resonates with me for sure. And it's also just trying to, you mentioned having fun along the way. Try and enjoy yourself along the way. And, this is not life and death stuff. Just before this podcast started, we were talking about the England football game and how I cried when England got knocked out in Euro 96.
This is life and death. Sorry. Like, it's football. I consider it's life and death. Yeah.
This is worth crying over. But, just not to get so wrapped up in emotions, and remember that this is this is sales, and this is not to build up so much high blood pressure and stomach ulcers. It's not life and death stuff, guys. Just take it easy and try and enjoy yourself along the way. Make some friends, make some acquaintances, and grow businesses.
Definitely. I think something I love about this thing is this. You build everything, and then you have to deliver this SKU, right? You have to deliver now. You have to win, and it's result driven. It's not just fluff or how do you call it, waffle. You have to focus on delivering and yet build for the long run. And this balance, I feel, is very, very interesting. It's not just transactional. It has results, but you also have to build. So
totally wise words. Itai, we loved having you on the show. Genuinely a really, really nice, open, honest chat. And as someone I've been working with for 6 or so years, really great to find out some things I didn't actually know about you before this podcast, which is funny and beautiful in a way. Any last words from you?
No, looking forward to working together at least 6 more years. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
You big softy. Okay, thank you, and have a lovely day.
Bye, mate.
This episode was produced and edited by Daniel Ohana and Thomas Morvidson, sound editing and mixed by Bren Russell. I'm Ganesh the Awesome, and if you're ready to deep dive and start transforming the way you approach cloud practices and cybersecurity strategies, then the team and myself at Global Dots are at your disposal. We are cloud innovation hunters, and we search the globe looking for the future tech solutions so we can bring them to you. We've been doing it for over 20 years. It's what we do, and if I don't say so myself, we do it pretty well. So have a word with the experts, don't be shy, and remember that conversations are always for free.